My name is Phyllis, and at 58 years old, I thought I knew everything about unconditional love. I was standing in my favorite room of our family mansion, surrounded by 30 years of memories, when I realized how wrong I could be. This room had always been my sanctuary, filled with books, lavender sachets, and my mother's antique armchair. But sometimes, a single moment can shatter everything you believed about the people closest to your heart. I never imagined my own daughter would be the one to destroy it all with just a few cruel words. Before I share this story with you, please let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. If you've ever felt deeply hurt by someone you love unconditionally, hit that like button. Subscribe for more real-life stories about family betrayal and finding strength when you need it most. The story of our family mansion began in 1989 when my husband Harold and I signed the mortgage papers with trembling hands. We were young then, full of dreams about raising our children in this beautiful 4,500 square foot colonial home in the suburbs of Denver. Harold worked double shifts at the construction company while I managed our small accounting business from home. Every month for 20 long years, we scraped together that mortgage payment determined to give our three children the stability we never had growing up. Jessica, our eldest at 35, had always been the ambitious one. She graduated summa cum laude from University of Colorado and landed a high-paying job at a marketing firm downtown. Marcus, 32, followed his father's path into construction, but expanded into real estate development. Our youngest, Stephanie, 29, chose the creative route as a freelance graphic designer. All three of them grew up running through the halls of this house, sliding down the mahogany banister and hiding in the walk-in closets during games of hide and seek. The mansion itself was a testament to our perseverance. 6 bedrooms, 4.5 bathrooms, a gourmet kitchen with granite countertops, and a 3-car garage that Harold had converted into his workshop. But my absolute favorite space was the small reading room on the second floor, overlooking our meticulously maintained garden. This wasn't just any room to me. It was where I had nursed all 3 babies during those sleepless nights. It was where I sat with my mother during her final weeks reading her favorite poetry aloud. It was where I retreated after Harold's sudden heart attack 3 years ago when the silence of this big house threatened to swallow me whole. I had carefully curated every inch of that room over 3 decades. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves held my collection of classic literature, some dating back to my college days at Denver University. The walls were painted a soft sage green, a color I had chosen after months of deliberation. My mother's burgundy velvet armchair sat beside the large picture window, reupholstered twice but still maintaining its original elegant lines from 1952. Small glass bowls filled with dried lavender from my garden created a gentle, calming fragrance throughout the space. A mahogany writing desk inherited from my grandmother held my leather-bound journals where I had documented 30 years of family milestones, personal struggles, and quiet victories. This room had witnessed everything. Late-night study sessions when I was earning my business degree while managing 3 young children. Countless hours spent reading bedtime stories with little Jessica curled up in my lap. Marcus sprawled on the Persian rug and baby Stephanie sleeping in her bassinet nearby. Heart-to-heart conversations with each child as they navigated teenage heartbreaks, college decisions, and early career challenges. The space had absorbed our laughter, our tears, our whispered prayers, and our loudest celebrations. After Harold passed away, the mansion felt overwhelming at times. 6 bedrooms for one person seemed excessive, but I couldn't bear the thought of leaving. Every corner held memories of our life together. The kitchen island where we shared morning coffee for 25 years. The master bedroom where we planned our children's futures during countless late-night conversations. The backyard deck where Harold taught each child to ride a bicycle, throw a baseball, and change a tire. My relationship with my children had evolved beautifully over the years. Marcus called every Sunday afternoon to check on me often, bringing his wife Sarah and their twin boys for weekend barbecues. Stephanie stopped by twice a week after her yoga classes, usually carrying takeout dinner and the latest gossip from her artistic social circle. But Jessica and I had always shared something special. As the eldest, she had been my little helper from the beginning, changing diapers, feeding bottles, and entertaining her younger siblings while I managed household responsibilities and my growing business. When Jessica's marriage began falling apart 8 months ago, she started visiting more frequently. Her husband of 10 years had apparently been having an affair with his assistant, a cliché that made the betrayal even more painful. I opened my home and my heart to her during those difficult weeks, offering both practical support and emotional comfort. We spent hours in my reading room discussing her legal options, her financial concerns, and her fears about starting over at 35. which made what happened next so completely devastating and unexpected. Jessica's 36th birthday was approaching, and I wanted to do something special to lift her spirits. I decided to throw a surprise party at the mansion, inviting her closest friends from work and college along with our extended family. I spent 2 weeks preparing every detail. I hired a catering service for appetizers, but insisted on making her favorite chocolate raspberry cake myself. I ordered fresh flowers for every room and had the house professionally cleaned from top to bottom. The guest list included 25 people, a mix of Jessica's childhood friends, work colleagues, and family members. I sent elegant invitations on cream-colored cardstock, requesting that guests arrive 30 minutes before Jessica. I wanted everything to be perfect for my eldest daughter, especially during this difficult period in her life. I even bought a new navy blue dress for the occasion, something sophisticated that would help me blend into the background while Jessica enjoyed being the center of attention. Saturday evening arrived with perfect October weather. The temperature hovered around 68 degrees, ideal for opening the windows to let in the fresh autumn air. I had spent the entire day arranging flowers, setting up the dining room buffet, and making final preparations. The house looked absolutely stunning. Soft jazz music played from the built-in sound system Harold had installed years ago. Candles flickered on every surface, creating warm, welcoming ambiance throughout the main floor. Guests began arriving at 6:30, parking along our circular driveway and the quiet residential street. I greeted everyone at the front door, feeling genuinely happy to see faces I hadn't encountered in months or sometimes years. Jessica's college roommate flew in from Seattle specifically for this celebration. 3 of her work colleagues brought beautifully wrapped gifts and bottles of expensive wine. My sister Patricia drove down from Fort Collins with her husband and 2 teenage daughters. Marcus arrived early with Sarah and the twins immediately taking charge of coat collection and drink service. He had inherited Harold's natural ability to make everyone feel comfortable and welcome. Sarah, ever the practical nurse, discreetly checked that we had adequate seating and helped rearrange furniture to accommodate the crowd. Their 8-year-old twins, Daniel and David, were perfectly behaved, staying in the family room with handheld games and quietly whispering to each other. Stephanie appeared fashionably late as always, wearing a flowing bohemian dress and carrying a homemade photo album filled with pictures from Jessica's childhood. She had spent weeks creating this thoughtful gift, collecting images from family vacations, birthday parties, school events, and holiday celebrations. Her new boyfriend, Trevor, accompanied her for the first time to a family gathering. He seemed nice enough, though quite young and clearly nervous about meeting everyone. When Jessica finally arrived at 7:15, the surprise was perfect. 25 people shouted in unison as she walked through the front door, and her face lit up with genuine shock and delight. She hugged me tightly, whispering thank you repeatedly in my ear. For those first few minutes, everything felt exactly as I had hoped. My daughter was happy, surrounded by people who loved her, celebrating another year of life in the home where she had grown up. But as the evening progressed, I began noticing subtle changes in Jessica's demeanor. She seemed distracted, frequently checking her phone and glancing toward the door, as if expecting someone else to arrive. When friends asked about her divorce proceedings, she deflected with vague responses and quickly changed subjects. During dinner, she picked at her food and barely touched the chocolate raspberry cake I had spent hours perfecting. Around 8:30, I overheard a conversation between Jessica and her friend Amanda near the kitchen island. They were discussing the challenges of maintaining large homes as single women. Amanda mentioned her recent decision to downsize from a 4-bedroom house to a 2-bedroom condo, describing the freedom and financial relief she experienced. Jessica nodded enthusiastically, adding her own commentary about the impracticality of excessive space and the burden of constant maintenance. I honestly don't understand why some people insist on keeping these enormous houses when they're living alone. Jessica said, her voice carrying just enough volume for me to hear from the adjacent dining room. It seems so wasteful and impractical, all that space going unused, all those utility bills, all that cleaning and upkeep for what purpose? Her words stung, but I tried to rationalize them as general observations rather than personal criticism. After all, she was going through an emotionally difficult time, and maybe she was projecting her own housing frustrations onto a broader conversation. I continued circulating among guests, refilling drinks and ensuring everyone felt comfortable and included. But the uncomfortable feeling in my stomach continued growing as the evening wore on. Jessica seemed increasingly eager for the party to end. She made pointed comments about having an early morning and needing to get adequate sleep. When guests lingered past 9:30, she began making obvious gestures like collecting empty glasses and straightening cushions, clearly signaling that she wanted people to start leaving. Around 10 o'clock, Jessica's friend Maria asked if she could see the rest of the house, particularly the famous reading room I had mentioned during dinner conversation. Your mother talks about that room like it's a sacred space, Maria said with a warm smile. I'd love to see where you grew up reading all those classic novels. Several other guests immediately expressed interest in a brief house tour. Jessica's expression tightened, but she couldn't reasonably refuse without seeming rude or inhospitable. Sure, she said with obvious reluctance. Mom can show you around if you really want to see everything. I felt a surge of pride and excitement. This beautiful house represented Harold's and my greatest achievement, and I loved sharing it with people who could appreciate the care and attention we had invested in every detail. 8 guests followed me up the curved staircase to the second floor, their voices filled with admiration for the original hardwood floors, crown molding, and crystal chandelier Harold had installed for our 15th wedding anniversary. This house is absolutely gorgeous, Maria commented as we reached the landing. You can tell how much love has gone into maintaining everything perfectly. I led the group down the hallway, pointing out family photographs that chronicled 30 years of birthdays, graduations, holidays, and vacations. Jessica followed behind us, remaining unusually quiet while I described the significance of various pictures and decorative pieces. When we reached my reading room, I paused at the doorway to build anticipation. This is my favorite room in the entire house, I announced, opening the door and stepping aside so everyone could enter. I've spent countless hours here over the past 3 decades. The room looked particularly beautiful that evening. Soft lamplight illuminated the bookshelves, highlighting leather-bound volumes and colorful paperback collections. The lavender sachets I had refreshed that morning created a subtle, pleasant fragrance that mixed with the natural wood scents from the built-in shelving. My mother's burgundy armchair faced the window where street lamps cast gentle shadows across the cushions. The mahogany writing desk displayed a few of my favorite fountain pens and a small crystal vase containing fresh roses from the garden. Oh my goodness, Maria exclaimed, walking directly to the bookshelves. This is like a personal library. Look at all these beautiful editions. Amanda picked up one of my leather journals from the writing desk, carefully examining the embossed cover. Do you actually write in these regularly? Every single night for 30 years, I replied proudly. I document family events, personal thoughts, even daily weather observations. These journals contain our entire family history. Jessica's college friend Rebecca discovered my collection of first edition novels, including signed copies of works by Maya Angelou and Toni Morrison that I had acquired during author readings in Denver. These must be worth a small fortune, she said with genuine appreciation. Trevor, Stephanie's boyfriend, seemed particularly interested in the room's architectural details. The crown molding and built-in shelving are original to the house, I explained. Harold and I chose to preserve these features rather than modernizing everything. For 15 minutes, I answered questions about book recommendations, shared stories about acquiring specific volumes, and described the process of choosing paint colors and furniture arrangements. Everyone seemed genuinely interested and impressed. The conversation flowed naturally, and I felt deeply satisfied sharing this personal sanctuary with people who could appreciate its significance and beauty. Maria picked up one of the lavender sachets from a small glass bowl on the windowsill. This scent is absolutely lovely, Etsan, she commented. It's so calming and peaceful in here. That's when Jessica suddenly interjected, her voice cutting through the warm atmosphere like a knife through silk. Really, I think this room absolutely stinks. The smell is overwhelming and old-fashioned. The statement hung in the air like poison gas, immediately silencing all conversation. 8 pairs of eyes turned toward Jessica in shock and disbelief. I felt my heart literally skip several beats as the words registered in my consciousness. But she wasn't finished destroying me. Mom's been hoarding books and old junk in here for decades. It's like a musty library nobody wants to visit. Jessica continued without pause, her voice gaining momentum and cruelty with each syllable. I can barely breathe when I come in here. Don't you think it smells terrible? She actually laughed while delivering this final blow, a harsh sound that contained no warmth or humor. The laugh of someone who wanted to ensure maximum damage from her verbal assault. Complete silence followed. 8 people stood frozen, unsure how to respond to such an unexpected and vicious attack. Maria's face showed pure shock and embarrassment. Rebecca carefully placed the book she had been examining back on the shelf, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Trevor studied his shoes intensely while Amanda stared at Jessica as if she had never seen her before. The silence stretched for what felt like hours, but probably lasted less than 30 seconds. Finally, Maria attempted to salvage the situation with diplomacy. "I think the scent is actually quite pleasant," she said softly. "Very soothing and homey." Amanda nodded in agreement. "The whole room feels so peaceful and welcoming." But the damage was complete and irreversible. My daughter had just publicly humiliated me in the most personal way imaginable, attacking the space that represented everything I held dear. 30 years of memories, love, and careful curation dismissed as stinking old junk that made her unable to breathe. I somehow managed to maintain my composure, though internally I felt like I was collapsing into a million pieces. "Well," I said with a smile that must have looked absolutely ghoulish, "I suppose we should head back downstairs and rejoin the other guests." The remainder of the evening passed in a surreal blur. I mechanically fulfilled my hostess duties, smiling and conversing while feeling completely detached from my own body. Every laugh seemed too loud, every conversation too trivial, every gesture of normalcy, a monumental effort. Jessica's words echoed continuously in my mind, each repetition driving the knife deeper into my heart. Guests began departing around 11 o'clock, offering warm thanks for the lovely evening and compliments about the delicious food. Several people made specific positive comments about my reading room, perhaps attempting to counteract Jessica's cruel remarks. I accepted their kindness graciously while internally screaming. Jessica left among the first group of departures, barely acknowledging me beyond a perfunctory hug and mumbled thank you. She made no attempt to apologize or explain her behavior. No recognition that she had said anything inappropriate or hurtful. She simply collected her purse and jacket, said goodbye to her friends, and walked out the front door as if nothing significant had occurred. Marcus and Stephanie remained behind to help with cleanup, as they always did after family gatherings. Sarah collected glasses and plates while the twins fell asleep on the family room sofa. Marcus loaded the dishwasher and wrapped leftover food while Stephanie carefully packed the untouched birthday cake into containers. "Mom, are you okay?" Stephanie asked quietly as we worked together in the kitchen. "Jessica seemed really stressed tonight." I continued wiping down countertops, focusing intently on removing every trace of water spots and crumbs. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just tired from all of the preparation." Marcus approached this delicate topic more directly. "Mom, Jessica is going through a really tough time with the divorce proceedings. Her lawyer is pushing for a quick settlement, and she's under tremendous financial pressure. I think she's taking out her stress on everyone around her." "She definitely didn't mean what she said about your room," Stephanie added supportively. "Everyone could tell she was just having a bad moment." Their attempts at defense and explanation were well-intentioned, but they actually made everything worse. The fact that my other children felt compelled to make excuses for Jessica's behavior only emphasized how completely unacceptable her actions had been. If she was experiencing stress or financial pressure, there were appropriate ways to discuss those concerns. Publicly humiliating her mother in front of guests was not one of them. "I understand she's under pressure," I replied carefully. "Divorce is never easy, and I want to support her however I can." But privately, I was recognizing something much deeper and more troubling about this situation. Jessica hadn't simply lost her temper or said something thoughtless in a moment of stress. Her comments had been deliberate and calculated, designed to inflict maximum damage in the most public way possible. She had looked directly at me while describing my cherished sanctuary as stinking, musty junk that made her unable to breathe. After Marcus and Stephanie departed with their exhausted children around midnight, I found myself alone in the house for the first time since the devastating confrontation. I walked slowly back upstairs to my reading room, seeing it through completely different eyes than I had just 3 hours earlier. Was Jessica right? Had I been fooling myself about this space for 30 years? I inhaled deeply, trying to detect the offensive odors my daughter claimed were overwhelming and old-fashioned. The lavender sachets smelled exactly as they always had, gentle and soothing. The books carried the familiar scent of aging paper and leather bindings, no different from any library or bookstore. The furniture polish Harold and I had used for decades created a subtle wood fragrance that I had always found comforting and homey. I sat in my mother's burgundy armchair and surveyed the room that had been my refuge through every major life event and crisis. This was where I had prayed for Harold's recovery during his first heart attack 10 years ago, where I had celebrated each child's college acceptance letters, where I had grieved my parents' deaths and my husband's sudden passing, where I had found peace during sleepless nights and strength during overwhelming challenges. But now, every single object in the room felt contaminated by Jessica's cruelty. The carefully arranged book collections seemed foolish and pretentious. The lavender sachets appeared outdated and unnecessary. My mother's beloved armchair looked shabby and worthless. The journals documenting 30 years of family history felt like pathetic attempts to manufacture significance from ordinary events. I sat in that chair until dawn watching the sunrise through the window that overlooked Harold's carefully maintained garden. By the time morning light filled the room completely, I had reached a crystal clear conclusion about my future and my relationship with the daughter who had so thoroughly rejected everything I valued and loved. If Jessica found my home and my cherished possessions so offensive that she couldn't breathe in their presence, then she clearly didn't deserve to inherit any of them. If my life's work creating a beautiful, welcoming family sanctuary was nothing more than hoarding junk in her opinion, then perhaps it was time to ensure she never had to suffer through visiting this stinking, musty museum again. I picked up the telephone and dialed information requesting the number for Linda Morrison Real Estate. Linda had helped several neighbors sell their homes over the past few years, and she had a reputation for professionalism and discretion. I left a voicemail message asking her to call me back regarding a potential listing consultation. Then I went downstairs, made a pot of coffee, and began planning the most dramatic decision of my 58-year life. Linda Morrison returned my call at 9:30 Monday morning, just as I was finishing my second cup of coffee and a piece of leftover birthday cake that tasted like cardboard after Saturday's events. She sounded surprised but interested when I explained that I was considering selling the family mansion. "This is quite unexpected, Phyllis," Linda said carefully. "You and Harold put so much love into that beautiful home. Are you sure you want to make such a major change?" I had prepared for this question and many others like it. I'm 58 years old and rattling around in 6 bedrooms by myself. It's time to downsize and simplify my life. Linda agreed to conduct a private market analysis and provide a realistic selling price estimate. We scheduled an appointment for Wednesday afternoon when I knew all 3 children would be working and unavailable to make surprise visits. I specifically requested that she park in the alley behind the house and enter through the back door to avoid attracting neighborhood attention. While waiting for Linda's assessment, I began the emotional process of deciding which possessions were truly important to me versus which items I had been keeping out of habit or misplaced sentimentality. Jessica's brutal honesty about my reading room had forced me to examine every aspect of my living situation with newfound objectivity. Did I really need 6 complete place settings of wedding china that we had used maybe 12 times in 25 years? Were the guest bedrooms serving any purpose other than collecting dust and requiring weekly cleaning? How many coffee table books about European architecture could one person reasonably display and actually reference? I started in Harold's old workshop sorting through tools and equipment that had remained untouched since his death 3 years ago. Marcus had expressed interest in the larger power tools, but dozens of smaller items could easily be donated to vocational training programs. Harold would have approved of his carefully maintained equipment, helping young people learn construction skills. The basement storage area contained boxes of children's artwork, school projects, and sports trophies from elementary and high school years. I spent hours examining these treasures, remembering Jessica's first place science fair ribbon, Marcus's Little League championship trophy, and Stephanie's high school drama club photographs. These items held genuine sentimental value and would definitely accompany me wherever I moved. Linda's market analysis arrived Wednesday evening in a professional leather portfolio. She estimated the mansion's current value at $1.2 million, significantly higher than I had expected. The house had appreciated considerably due to neighborhood improvements and Denver's booming real estate market. You could realistically expect multiple offers within 2 weeks of listing, Linda explained as we sat in my soon-to-be former dining room. Properties like this are in extremely high demand, especially from young professionals moving to Colorado from more expensive coastal markets. We discussed various selling strategies, including the possibility of accepting a quick cash offer slightly below asking price to expedite the process. I made it clear that speed was more important to me than maximizing profit. Linda seemed puzzled by my urgency, but agreed to contact investors who specialized in rapid closings. Thursday morning, I drove downtown to explore condominium complexes and apartment buildings suitable for a single woman with modest space requirements. I had never lived alone in a small space, having moved directly from my childhood home to married life in progressively larger houses. The prospect felt both terrifying and strangely liberating. After visiting 6 different properties, I found the perfect solution. A recently renovated historic building near Denver's Arts District offered luxury one-bedroom units with beautiful hardwood floors, updated kitchens, and large windows overlooking tree-lined streets. The building included amenities like a fitness center, rooftop garden, and 24-hour concierge service that would provide security and convenience I hadn't realized I wanted. The unit that captured my heart was on the 3rd floor with high ceilings and built-in bookshelves that could accommodate my most important volumes. The layout was compact but efficiently designed with ample storage and a small balcony perfect for morning coffee and evening wine. The rent was reasonable enough that I could afford it comfortably while investing the proceeds from selling the mansion. Friday afternoon, Linda called with exciting news. She had contacted 3 serious investors, and one was prepared to make an immediate cash offer of $1.15 million, with closing possible within 10 business days. The buyers were a young couple relocating from San Francisco who wanted to purchase the house fully furnished and move in immediately. They're offering $50,000 below our conservative estimate, but they want everything exactly as it stands, Linda explained. Furniture, artwork, kitchen equipment, even your personal decorations. They love the traditional style and don't want to spend months shopping for furnishings. This unexpected development solved multiple logistical problems simultaneously. I wouldn't need to organize estate sales, donate furniture, or arrange storage for items I couldn't fit into a one-bedroom apartment. I could simply pack my clothes, personal documents, photographs, most important books, and sentimental keepsakes, leaving everything else for the new owners. The irony was delicious and deeply satisfying. Jessica had dismissed my beautiful home as stinking musty and filled with junk. But 2 strangers were willing to pay over $1 million specifically because they loved every detail of the environment she had found so offensive and unbearable. I accepted the offer immediately and scheduled closing for the following Friday afternoon. That gave me exactly 1 week to pack my essential belongings, arrange the apartment lease, and completely transform my entire life without telling anyone in my family about these monumental changes. Tuesday morning, I hired a discreet moving company to transport selected items to my new apartment. 3 young men spent 4 hours carefully wrapping and loading my mother's burgundy armchair, my favorite books, family photographs, Harold's tools that Marcus wanted, and boxes of children's memorabilia. They handled everything with professional care and asked no questions about why I was moving only specific items while leaving a mansion full of expensive furniture behind. By Wednesday evening, my new apartment was furnished and ready for occupancy. The burgundy armchair fit perfectly beside the built-in bookshelves, creating a cozy reading nook with afternoon sunlight streaming through tall windows. My carefully selected books filled 2 shelves, leaving plenty of space for future acquisitions. Family photographs covered the top of a small antique dresser that had belonged to my grandmother. The apartment felt surprisingly like home almost immediately. Without 6 bedrooms to heat, cool, clean, and maintain, I could focus my energy on enjoying the space rather than constantly managing it. The building's concierge handled package deliveries and maintenance requests. The fitness center motivated me to exercise regularly for the first time in years. The rooftop garden provided access to fresh herbs and vegetables without the backbreaking work of maintaining Harold's extensive landscaping. Thursday afternoon, I signed the final closing documents in Linda's office, officially transferring ownership of the mansion to its enthusiastic new owners. They had toured the property earlier that week and expressed genuine delight with every room, especially praising the beautiful reading area on the 2nd floor that they plan to use as a home office and library. "Your home is absolutely gorgeous," the young wife told me during our brief meeting. "We can't wait to start our family here and create the same kind of loving atmosphere you obviously maintained for so many years." Their appreciation for what I had built over 3 decades provided a stark contrast to my own daughter's cruel dismissal. These strangers recognized and valued the care, attention, and love that Harold and I had invested in every corner of that house. Friday evening, I was officially living in my new apartment full-time. For the first time in 36 years, I was completely independent and answerable to no one regarding my living arrangements, daily schedule, or personal choices. The feeling was simultaneously frightening and exhilarating. Saturday morning brought beautiful autumn weather and a sense of peaceful accomplishment I hadn't experienced in months. I was sipping coffee on my small balcony reading a novel I had been too busy to enjoy while managing the mansion when my phone rang at 11:15. The caller ID showed Jessica's name. My heart rate immediately accelerated, though I couldn't determine whether the emotion was anxiety, anticipation, or satisfaction. I answered on the fourth ring with careful neutrality. "Hi, Jessica. How are you this morning?" "Mom, what the hell happened to our house?" Her voice was shrill with panic and confusion. "I just drove by to drop off those sweaters you let me borrow, and there's a sold sign in the front yard." "I sold it," I replied calmly. "The closing was yesterday afternoon." Silence stretched for nearly 10 seconds before Jessica found her voice again. "You sold our family home without telling any of us. How could you make such a huge decision without discussing it with your children?" "It was my house, Jessica. Harold and I paid every mortgage payment for 20 years, and the deed has been in my name exclusively since his death. I can do whatever I want with my property." "But Mom, this was supposed to be our inheritance. We grew up in that house. All our memories are there." The irony of this statement was so profound that I actually laughed out loud. "Your memories? You mean like the memory of telling everyone at your birthday party that my room stank so badly you could barely breathe? Those kinds of precious memories." Another long pause. I could practically hear Jessica's brain scrambling to formulate a response that would minimize the damage from her previous behavior while maximizing my guilt about selling the house. I was having a bad day. The divorce stress is overwhelming, and I said things I didn't mean. "You know I love that house." "Actually, Jessica, I think you said exactly what you meant. You made it very clear that my home was offensive to you. So I decided you shouldn't have to suffer through inheriting such a stinking, musty place filled with old junk." "Where are you living now?" she asked, her voice becoming even more frantic. "Please tell me you didn't do anything crazy." I provided my new address and apartment number, explaining that I had downsized to a beautiful one-bedroom unit that perfectly suited my current needs. Jessica insisted on coming over immediately to see what I had done and discuss reversing this terrible mistake. "There's nothing to reverse, Jessica. The house is sold, and I'm very happy with my decision." She arrived 30 minutes later with Marcus and Stephanie in tow, apparently having called them into emergency session to deal with their mother's obvious mental breakdown. All three of them looked shocked and bewildered as they stood in my apartment doorway, staring at the transformed living situation. "Mom, this place is tiny," Stephanie said, walking slowly through the main room. "How can you possibly be comfortable in such a small space after living in our big house for 30 years? Marcus remained silent, examining the apartment layout and furnishings with his professional eye for construction and design. I could see him evaluating square footage, storage solutions, and overall functionality. His expression suggested grudging respect for the efficiency and quality of the space. Jessica, however, was approaching full hysteria. "This is insane, Mom. You've thrown away everything our family built together. That house was supposed to stay in our family forever." "Sit down," I said firmly, gesturing toward the small dining table. "All of you, we need to have an honest conversation about expectations and respect." They reluctantly took seats while I remained standing, maintaining the psychological advantage of height and control. For the first time in years, I felt completely confident and empowered in my interactions with my adult children. "Jessica, last Saturday night, you publicly humiliated me in my own home in front of my guests by describing my most cherished space as stinking junk that made you unable to breathe. You laughed while delivering this insult, showing clear intent to cause maximum emotional damage." I already apologized for that. I was having a rough time with the divorce. "You haven't apologized for anything. You've made excuses and blamed your behavior on external stress. There's a significant difference." Marcus and Stephanie exchanged glances but remained silent, recognizing that this confrontation was primarily between Jessica and me. Furthermore, you seem to have developed a sense of entitlement about inheriting my property that's both inappropriate and presumptuous. I worked for 30 years to pay for that house. I maintained it, improved it, and filled it with love and care. I don't owe anyone an inheritance, and I certainly don't owe one to someone who treats my life's work with such disrespect and contempt. Jessica's face was red with anger and frustration. You're being completely unreasonable. Families don't just sell houses without talking to each other first. Loving families don't publicly humiliate each other either, but that didn't stop you. The conversation continued for nearly 2 hours, covering everything from family loyalty to financial responsibility to mutual respect. Marcus and Stephanie gradually began understanding my perspective, though they remained concerned about the dramatic nature of my response. Jessica alternated between rage tears and attempts at manipulation, but I remained firm in my position. I need you all to understand something very important, I said, as our discussion neared its conclusion. For the past 3 years since your father died, I've been maintaining that enormous house primarily because I thought it was important to preserve our family gathering place. I assumed you valued it the same way I did. We do value it, Stephanie protested. That's why we're so upset about losing it. Really? When was the last time any of you visited without wanting something from me? When was the last time you helped with yard work or house maintenance? When was the last time you contributed financially toward property taxes or major repairs? The silence that followed this question provided its own answer. I've been carrying the full financial and physical burden of that house for 3 years while you all enjoyed the benefits of having a beautiful family gathering place available whenever you needed it. But the moment I wanted to share my pride in the space I had created, Jessica made it clear that she found everything about it offensive and disgusting. That's not fair, Jessica said weakly. I was just having a bad moment. A bad moment that revealed your true feelings about my choices, my taste, and my life's work. I decided I didn't want to spend the rest of my days maintaining a house for someone who has so little respect for what I've built. Over the following weeks, family dynamics shifted in ways I hadn't anticipated. Marcus and Stephanie adapted to visiting my apartment and actually seemed to prefer the intimate setting for conversation and connection. Without the distraction of a large house to maintain, I could focus entirely on enjoying their company during visits. Marcus brought his tools and helped me hang artwork and adjust furniture placement. Sarah loved the building's fitness center and often joined me for morning workouts followed by coffee on the rooftop garden. The twins enjoyed exploring the nearby parks and museums that were within walking distance of my downtown location. Stephanie discovered several art galleries and creative spaces in the neighborhood and frequently stopped by after visiting exhibitions or attending workshops. Trevor appreciated the urban environment and often joined us for dinners at nearby restaurants that offered cuisine more diverse than anything available in our previous suburban location. Jessica, however, remained distant and resentful for several months. She made it clear that she viewed my decision as a personal betrayal and punishment for one moment of poor judgment. Her calls became infrequent and strained. When she did visit, she spent most of the time pointing out perceived inconveniences and limitations of apartment living. During this period, I discovered aspects of myself that had been dormant for decades. Without the constant demands of maintaining a large house and yard, I had time and energy to pursue interests I had abandoned years earlier. I enrolled in a watercolor painting class at a nearby community center. I joined a book club that met monthly at a local coffee shop. I volunteered at a literacy program that helped adult learners improve their reading skills. The physical act of downsizing had forced me to examine which possessions truly mattered to me versus which items I had been keeping out of habit or obligation. Living with less stuff created more space for experiences and relationships. I found myself reading more, walking more, and engaging with my neighbors in ways that hadn't been possible in the isolated suburban environment. Most surprisingly, I felt safer and more secure in the apartment building than I had in the mansion during my 3 years of living alone. The concierge service provided peace of mind, and the proximity of neighbors offered social connection without overwhelming demands on my time or energy. 8 months after selling the house, Jessica called me on a Tuesday evening, sounding uncharacteristically vulnerable and defeated. Her divorce had been finalized, but the financial settlement was smaller than expected, and her ex-husband was being vindictive about visitation arrangements with their shared dog. She was struggling with loneliness in her own apartment and missing the family connections she had taken for granted. Mom, I need to apologize sincerely for what I said at my birthday party. I was angry about so many things in my life, and I took it out on you in a cruel and completely unfair way. And this was the first time she had offered a genuine apology without making excuses or blaming external circumstances. I've been thinking about what you said regarding respect and entitlement, and you're right. I did assume I would inherit the house someday, and I never considered how much work and money you put into maintaining it after Dad died. Thank you for saying that, Jessica. It means a lot to hear you acknowledge those things. Can I ask you something honestly? Are you happy living in the apartment? Do you ever regret selling our house? I'm happier than I've been in years, I replied truthfully. Selling the house was the best decision I've made since your father died. We began rebuilding our relationship slowly and carefully. Jessica started visiting more frequently, bringing dinner and staying to watch movies, or simply talk about our respective lives. She seemed genuinely interested in my new activities and friendships, asking detailed questions about my painting class and volunteer work. Now, 18 months after selling the mansion, I can honestly say that Jessica's cruel comment that night was the catalyst for the most positive transformation of my adult life. Her words forced me to examine whether I was living according to my own values and desires, or simply maintaining traditions that no longer served my actual needs. The process of downsizing taught me that happiness doesn't require impressive possessions or large spaces. Security comes from having enough rather than having excess. Freedom comes from choosing your own priorities rather than meeting other people's expectations. I learned that respect isn't automatically inherited through family relationships. It must be earned and demonstrated consistently through words and actions. People who truly love you will support your choices even when they don't fully understand them. Most importantly, I discovered that it's never too late to prioritize your own well-being and happiness. For 30 years, I had organized my life around my family's needs and expectations. Selling the house and moving to the apartment forced everyone, including me, to recognize that I am an individual person with my own dreams, preferences, and boundaries. Jessica and I now have a more honest and balanced relationship than we ever achieved when I was focused primarily on being the perfect, accommodating mother. She respects my independence and seeks my advice rather than assuming my availability and compliance. Our conversations cover topics beyond family logistics, exploring books we're reading, places we want to travel, and goals we hope to achieve. Marcus and Stephanie have both expressed admiration for my courage in making such a dramatic life change. They've started questioning their own assumptions about success and happiness, wondering whether their own choices reflect authentic desires or social pressures to accumulate property and possessions. The young couple who purchased the mansion sends me Christmas cards each year, sharing updates about the improvements they've made and the family memories they're creating in the space Harold and I built with so much love. Their appreciation for what we accomplished validates that my 30 years of care and attention weren't wasted or misguided. Sometimes we need to lose something to realize its true value. Jessica's thoughtless insult helped me understand that I had been maintaining a house that served other people's needs rather than my own. Her lack of appreciation freed me to make choices based on my own happiness rather than her expectations. I learned that the biggest gift we can give ourselves is the freedom to choose our own peace over other people's approval. When someone dismisses what matters most to you, you have the power to remove yourself from their influence rather than trying to change their mind or earn their respect. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish or cruel. It's necessary for maintaining your dignity and self-worth. People will treat you exactly as well as you insist on being treated. What would you do if someone you loved completely dismissed everything that brought you joy and peace? Have you ever had to choose between keeping family harmony and protecting your own self-respect? Please share your thoughts in the comments below and let me know if you've faced similar situations with family members who took your sacrifices for granted. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about finding strength when people closest to you disappoint you most deeply. Share this video with anyone who might need encouragement to prioritize their own happiness over other people's entitlement. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that you deserve to be treated with respect and appreciation, especially by the people who claim to love you most. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is show someone the consequences of taking your kindness for granted.